I'm going to introduce Dr. John Hoffmann. He'll kind of share with you his dissertation and why he's excited about what we're doing.
Good morning. I want to thank Dr. Charlesworth for organizing this symposium and bringing together this wonderful group of scholars. Our topic, the continuity of the prophetic genius of Isaiah, is very special to me as it parallels the dissertation that I wrote 16 years ago for my PhD. The title of my dissertation was Post-Exilic Prophets, the bridge between the classical prophets, such as Isaiah, and the sages. It's generally been accepted that the Old Testament prophetic endeavor died out in about the 5th century BCE. The canon was closed, the office of prophet fell into disrepute. But did it really die? The purpose of my dissertation was to re-examine this prophetic endeavor, just as prophecy underwent a dramatic change during the Assyrian period and after the destruction of the monarchy, so it underwent another transition after the last of the classical prophets. That transition led to a literature that we identify as Midrash, found in the intertestamental period and thereafter. It was a direct result of a change in the prophetic self-conception, from spokesman of Yahweh to divinely inspired interpreter of Yahweh. The post-exilic prophets can be seen as this transitional phase. Therefore, one should not speak of a cessation of prophecy, but rather a change in the prophetic function. We see this new style of Midrash prophecy in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Apocrypha, the Pseudepigrapha, the Talmud, various post-exilic biblical writings in the New Testament. Ezra and the Levitical singers, or teachers, are the pivotal figures in this transition. And Pesher literature serves as a key example of this transformation. Indeed, the prophetic tradition did continue. It continued in a distinct form of literature developed in a time of crisis that we call Midrash, divinely inspired interpretation. Isaiah, in particular, continued to shape both Jewish and Christian literature for centuries to come. I want to introduce to you Dr. James H. Charlesworth, and I could say he needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him an introduction anyway. He's the George L. Collard Professor of New Testament Language and Literature at Princeton Theological Seminary. He is the director of the Princeton Dead Sea Scroll Project that many of you are familiar with, which is fantastic. He's also the president of the Foundation on Judaism and Christian Origins. And we have Lamar and some other board members here, and it's the Foundation for Judaism and Christian Origins that is the sponsor of this conference. Dr. Charlesworth is noted for his research on the Apocrypha, Pseudepigrapha, Dead Sea Scrolls, Josephus, the historical Jesus, and the Gospel of John. He's been a professor both at Duke and Princeton, a visiting professor at the Hebrew University here in Jerusalem, the Albright Institute, Naples University, Pontificia Università Gregoriana in Rome. Literally too many honors to mention, most of which I cannot pronounce. So I will let you, Dr. Jeff. Thank you, sir.
I was going to read a paper, but I think that's boring. You have the paper. For many decades, I have been working on a thesis. That is, there's an unperceived continuity. Unperceived because people in the church and people in the synagogue assume Isaiah was written by one person. The beauty of our scientific research is that we have been able to bridge the gap between antiquity and the present. So we're going to be testing, is there a continuity of Isaiah? Now, what I mean by continuity of Isaiah, in the late 8th century, right here in Jerusalem, a very brilliant man, clearly a genius, wrote some things, obviously edited later, and we think that's Isaiah 1 through 39. In it you have some of the most beautiful dreams in our culture that have created Judaism and created Christianity and created a bond. For example, a woman shall conceive and she shall bore a son. In the Septuagint it is Parthenos, and a virgin You can see how this creates a mythology and creates an identity. Perhaps the most beautiful passages would be, "And the lion shall eat straw like the ox. There shall be peace on my holy mountain." And as we will conclude, Miroslav is coming in from Poland, so he'll be here a little later. When we talk about the continuity, eventually we'll have to go to Witkara Ze El Ze V'Amar Kadosh 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 Adonai Sebaoth Melei Kol Haaretz Kavodo. And the snakes called one to the other. You know, I gave you a picture of a snake, and people said, but the seraphs are standing. That is 6:2, Isaiah 6:2. Serpent stood. That was the iconography. And what did they shout? Holy, holy, holy. In synagogues throughout the world today, you'll hear Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. In every church, Roman Catholic, Southern Baptist, Methodist, you name it, Chaldean churches, Ethiopian churches, you'll have holy, 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 or Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Now that's what Miroslav is going to do. That gives you a capsulate. Chapters 1 through 39, we think is first Isaiah. There's a consensus on that. Basically, one could say all good scholars of Isaiah agree, whether they're atheists, agnostics, Jews, or Christians. Then we get 40 through 55. There's a strong consensus that highly likely, probable, this was written in Babylon. It's a different setting, same kind of tone. What I'm going to urge us to explain to each other, can we talk about a school of Isaiah that it binds 1 through 66? A school of Isaiah. We talk about a school of Paul. We talk about a school of John, or the Johannine school. I don't even remember Alan Culpepper. He did his dissertation on the school of John. A lot of people are talking about the school of John. If you can talk about the school of Aristotle, the school of Paul, and the school of Socrates, why don't we talk about the school of Isaiah? It helps us explain the continuity. Now, one of the most beautiful passages in 2nd Isaiah is the very first chapter. Kol Koreh B'midbar. A voice is calling in the wilderness. Now, in Babylon, what is the voice calling? Panu Derek Adonai. Make way for Adonai. Build a highway. So there in Babylon, they're thinking about building a highway to come back here. So it's a different setting, and that's their dream. Now, one of the reasons that we think that 56 to 66 is 3rd Isaiah. Now, we're into conceivable, not probable. Chadwick did a very good job. You'll see he's a Mormon, and he says, I'm a traditionist. But nothing in my tradition, nothing in my church prohibits me from saying it may be a 3rd Isaiah. Now, I've become more and more convinced of a 3rd Isaiah because it doesn't talk about returning to Zion. It talks about, oh my, it's awful. The people are terrible here. You're in Babylon, you have a dream. When you come, it's not quite a dream. All you have to do is study the sociology of pilgrimages. On the way, you have people who are so disparate, but after about a week, I needed you. Maybe you were worth $20 million, maybe I didn't have a penny. But I was able to sleep because you were awake and took care of me. So you have a commonality, a sociology of knowledge. But as you get closer and closer to your dream, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it hits you, the reality, how horrible it is. You know, you have hawkers, you know, here, bakshish, min fadlak, you know, give us money, give us money. They come and they find hostility from Samaritans, from the people living here. It's a different sect. Now, the next thing we think, that gets us from the late 8th century, if you want 715, you got it, to the 500s in Babylon, to the 4th century or somewhere around there. We're right dap in the middle of Judea. And our earlier scrolls at Qumran, as Tove knows this better than anybody probably, are maybe 3rd century. You see the continuity? At Qumran, when you read the Serech Yachad, you ask him, what are you doing here? Kol Koreh. We heard a voice calling. You hear how different the interpretation is? What did you hear? Bimidbar. In the wilderness. And that's why we have gone to the wilderness. And Talmud was absolutely right. Wilderness is a place of preparation. The Bnei Yisrael were being prepared before they came into the land. Jesus' temptation, he was preparing before his ministry. And you have Qumran. They are preparing for the way of the Lord. They interpret it differently. The next person who interprets the same one, the only ones we know in history is the Baptist group, and it was led by Dale Allison. Oh yes, no, it's not Dale, it's John the Baptizer. Dale's going to tell us about John. I'm trying to give you an overview. And they asked JB, what is your key? Kol Koreh. I heard a voice. Chuck, what did the voice say? Bimidbar. Panu Derek Adonai, in the wilderness. What is he doing in the wilderness? Preparing the way of the Lord. Now, we don't know much about John. We hear about him through the followers of Jesus who hated the followers of John the Baptizer. It's a very complex issue. Tension throughout John, especially. Baldensberger in the 1880s made that very clear. There was a man there whose name was Yeshua. You ask him, hey, Yeshua, where are you from? Yeshua, I'm in Nazareth. I'm Jesus from Nazareth. What are you doing in the wilderness? He's my cousin. I think something is electric. Something's exciting going on. Do you have a text? Yes. Kol Koreh Bamidbar. I'm hearing a voice calling in the wilderness. Go out and prepare the way of the Lord. JB and the Qumran group, they're in the wilderness preparing the way. He heard the voice the same way 2nd Isaiah did. The voice is in the wilderness saying, go! Prepare the way of the Lord. He went to Galilee, as you know. The next thing we pick up, Charlesworth, when he comes, he's going to talk about Paul and the evangelist. And he will try to explain to you, if I remember correctly, something about that Paul feels that Isaiah, he's kind of really reenacting the drama. He is the one that is going to bring the Gentiles. He is absolutely on fire with the good news that he has. And then the evangelists, each of them in order. John's the earliest. Not John. The first edition of John, which is hidden behind the fourth edition of John, which is hidden behind the third edition of John, which is hidden behind the second edition of John. The first edition, especially, is making it very clear about Isaiah. Now, when we look at Luke, he's in Nazareth, and he stands up, and he opens the scroll. He unrolls the scroll, and he reads from Isaiah 60. And he says, behold, today this is fulfilled in you. Everybody loves him until he goes on and explains it about himself. And then they want to kill him and throw him out. You know the story. So if you look at Luke, that's very important for Luke. Now, that's pretty much it when we talk about the books that made it into the canon. We didn't invite Lawrence Stuckenbrook here, but we could add the pseudepigrapha. Dan Bahad is going to come and talk about how archaeology is fulfilling the continuity. He wants to lecture, so we're going to fit him into the program. You know, he's going to lead us around. So pop the questions to him. How do you know this stone is from the time of Isaiah? Did Isaiah see that stone? What was the temple like? He knows more than anybody ever. I don't think anybody will know as much as him, because you can dig only once. And then, Aaron, you know, what you dug, we can't see anymore. You destroy it. And so when he dies, it's really, to me, in many ways, a great tragedy. Because I was going to start this with, where are you? Eifo ata. I feel very lonely here. Emmanuel's my dear friend. Dale. All of you in many ways, and some I'm just getting to know. But I feel very lonely. Eifo ata. Where are you, Albright? I remember my time with him, and he would keep his hand, and he was very tall and very straight, Southern Baptist missionary. And Glick was so different. You would have liked Glick. You know, he was full of life. And DeVoe. Oh, you can't believe DeVoe. He was about this high. And when we went to Qumran, we parked the buses. He said, come, boom. No, he didn't speak that. He says, avant, en avant. And we took off. And I had just been elected all Scotland, all Great Britain. I got all the awards in basketball. I was in great shape. But he was a gazelle. And today I still think he floated. We went all the way up, but the whole way, he just was a smoking. It was like a choo-choo train. When we got to the top, I couldn't believe, Dale. Everybody from the École Biblique, they were this high. And we saw him back in the distance. We developed a wonderful relationship. We talked about Cave 1. Where is he? Lopo. He's not here. I miss him. And Talmon. And if you say, who's Sham? Efo Sham? Where's there? You know, I really feel very lonely. Where's my Talmon? And David Flusser. When I did the biography of David Flusser, I say, in Jerusalem, they can't figure it out. Is he a genius or is he insane? And the answer was, and he would come to these, and he was so theatrical. I remember when we had the conference in the Mormon Center, and I sat behind him. He was just all over the stage, and he would say, "Oh, those Romans! Oh, I hate those!" And he would get blood coming from his finger. He hated the Romans. And he says, "Our Lord Jesus." He understood it better than anyone. Our Lord Jesus. And when he sent me things, I would take out our Lord. Today, he like Ezra Vermish, you don't use criteria anymore. You know, if you want to ask the question, who was a better Christian, Salah ad-Din or Rico Coeur de Lion? I know who to vote for. Salah ad-Din had 30,000 Christian prisoners. He says, for the love of Khadijah, I released 10,000. For the love of my uncle, Khadijah's wife, I released 10,000. And for the love of Allah, I released them all. He released 30,000. And what did Rico Coeur de Lion did, Richard the Lionhearted? For my love of Christ, slay them all. And you think, oh gee. You know. So these criteria, you know, if Jesus said something like, by your actions they will know who you follow. Obviously all of us know that answer, but where are you, Talmon? Where are you, DeVoe? Where are you, Benoit? He knew Greek. It was amazing. I would go to his office and talk to him, and he was all curled up in one of those lotus positions, you know, doing his yoga. He was tied up in a ball, and we would talk. It just seems like they're gone. The people that really made me who I am. Albright and Glick and DeVoe and Benoit and Talmon and Flusser. And we could keep going on and on and on and on. And in many ways, we're carrying on many of their traditions. I wish they could fill out the questionnaire. So that is what we've come together to test. And the question will be that adverb, exceptionally. Dale, everybody knows Isaiah was influential on John, but was it more influential than Ezekiel? Tove, David, Noel Friedman and I, we would argue. He said Ezekiel is more important than Isaiah, and I said no. I think Isaiah is the most important for Qumran. So it's to ask this question, and I'll have to struggle with that, you know. I don't know that I can always answer it, but I want to hear the question in my own work. Obviously, Isaiah is extremely important for Paul, probably the most important. For Luke, perhaps. And the others is so complicated, you know. But Isaiah really did shape the mind of the early followers of Jesus. And when Miroslav Vorsfeld comes, and is Yo here yet? He's coming in from Beijing. So the people that have come the farthest probably will come in a little later. Well, that's what I wanted to start. We're going to test a hypothesis. Is that all right, Mr. Chairman?